Getting older all the time.
All right, we should be live, maybe.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Once again.
had a few issues there
Once
trying to.
again. Dang it. Okay.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, folks.
Yeah. For those of you in the YouTube chat, please give me a sound check, both on my sound, which I'm pretty sure you can hear me, and these guys. They're on a different audio stream than me. So somebody say something.
Test one, two, three. Test, test.
That should work.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, we got the stream started on time, although I was having some issues with sound once again. This time it was I took an Arch update this morning, so and I hadn't updated in like 2 or 3 weeks, so it was a pretty big update.
Yeah. Those
And it
things,
included,
you
of
know,
course.
they're always unpredictable.
Well, it was, it's gonna, have updates to like the kernel, which I already know. I'm not going to reboot the machine before doing the live stream because you never know how that's going to work out.
No, you don't.
But Zoom had an update, and I guess some setting in it changed because I've never had that issue that we just had. Luckily, it only took about 10 minutes to figure it out. Some setting.
Yeah. By the way, Derek, question. Have you gone through this Linux firmware shenanigans when Arch mentioned it?
Yep. Yeah. On one of my machines, because one of my machines is at NVIDIA, my home computer. This one,
oh God,
I can't remember if I had the issue with this one or not, but on my home computer,
it's not an issue. It's just Arch splitting the package into turning it into a meta package.
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't really an issue. It's just, when you go to update, it's going to complain about a dependency issue. You just have to forcefully remove a dependency.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I thank Arch for doing this. Some people are yelling at Arch for doing this. From the perspective of a distro maintainer, I thank them for doing that because now it gave us the flexibility of including only what's necessary and not including the rest. So I created my own meta package called mkinitcpio-fw, which includes all the firmwares except the GPU ones like AMD GPU, Radeon, and NVIDIA and Intel. Those are outside the meta package. So if I don't want them on the ISO or whatever, they can just install the meta package and then each package separately.
Yeah.
If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have been able to fix the whole entire mess, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah, it's not a problem for most Arch users because most Arch users are, as soon as that update failed, and it told me it was a dependency issue with Linux firmware, I already knew. Let me go straight to the Arch Linux homepage, and it told me, forcefully remove that package. Which is something you normally should never do, but in this case, it was necessary. Yeah.
No, because I was recently part of the Arch install Discord server. It's Comedy Central over there. It's Comedy Central. If you want to have a few laughs, just join that server and read everything that's going on. My God. I'm
not trying to laugh that hard, Steve.
So people complain about not being able to use Arch installed because recently the VMware x86 video VMware driver is no longer on the Arch repositories for VMware.
Yeah.
So the current version of Arch install will fail unless they update Arch install before running it. So a lot of people complain they're failing. They are given the solution. And some people, like you mentioned, they're what you call them, they're Draculas. What you call them? The vampires.
The vampires.
Yeah, the vampires. They're like they are linked to the article telling them that the package was deprecated. They say we don't know what to do with that. Please fix it for us. So directly related to that video about the vampires you made.
Well, that's where I was going with that Arch issue. It's not a problem for folks like us that we're going to do that update in the command line. We're kind of used to things, error messages. You go read the Arch news, get the solution. But most people, You know, a lot of people that are running Arch-based distributions are running things like Manjaro and, you know, Endeavor and things. So they're running it with GNOME or KDE, and they're using graphical software centers. I wonder about some of those folks because obviously their updates are going to fail, but they're not going to necessarily know what to do with it.
Yeah, they're going to say, hey, fix it for us. We're not going to do anything. You're a distro. You should fix it for us. It happened to me. Someone came in the comments of my new videos, and they were like, hey, you're a distro. You should provide support. So fix it for us. You fix it. I'm like, no, no.
Well, here I have to say that yes, in part, distros should and not just should, but must offer support for certain things.
We offer support. We tell them that it's like in my case, since I am attached to Arch more than CachyOS is. So I had to tell them, read what Arch mentioned. Do exactly that. It works. There you go. I helped you.
And you see, and that's the problem. They didn't install Arch. They installed your distro. Remember that. They installed your distro. They didn't install Arch.
Yeah, but they refuse to read the wiki where it says it's Arch.
That doesn't matter. It's
but a lot of them are installing
things
like Garuda and Endeavor and things like that because they're touted as being a user-friendly way to get into Arch. Yeah. And if that's what you're claiming, then it's kind of hard to go back later and when the thing breaks and say,
understood. It's understood. That's why I had to build 5 different ISOs to get to the solution, and now the solution is there. It will, and thanks to the issue that happened, I was able to, like I said earlier, fix it, and now they don't need to bother with any of that. But I had to release the ISOs multiple times until I figured out a permanent fix. So now the fix is included, and by the way, I should throw this bonus out there. There's an NVIDIA version of Zero Linux for those people who are having issues with NVIDIA. It's not going to be made public like anybody can download. Just people who are having issues with NVIDIA and cannot get any of the other normal spins to run. Only KDE. It's only KDE, the KDE flagship, and this is a fallback for people having issues getting NVIDIA running. But it's an NVIDIA only ISO, so you're not going to be able to use it on Intel, AMD, or anything else. Just NVIDIA. So yeah, I learned something new through this messy week. I learned how to build an NVIDIA only ISO.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys in the chat, by the way, for giving me the okay on the sound check earlier. Also, Heather, good morning. Johan, Sprinkle Nights. Heather mentions we should do more of these chats. Yeah, these are fun. She also mentioned she's using Storm OS. Shout out to Ben, right?
Oh God, she is.
Yeah,
she's funny.
That's cool.
Yeah. But other than that, all I wanted to say was through maintaining your own distro will cause battle scars, but it's through those battle scars that you're gonna come out the other end with 10 times more knowledge than when you came in.
As someone who's been involved with multiple distros, well, it's like it's nothing maintaining a distro. It's like one of the easiest things you can do, honestly.
Compared to other things, there are some things more complicated. But in my case, because I do maintain a distro, and I do maintain Hyperland, Hyper Zero or Zero Hyper or whatever I called it. It's a config, not an ISO, that I made available for everyone, thanks to Array and DDubs, who helped a lot. But Hyper Zero does exist now if anyone wants to test it out and have fun with it. It's basic, but it's out there. It's just to let people know that I do dabble in other things than KDE and GNOME. I'm not a one-sided person, but I'm never going to use anything as a daily except KDE, because KDE I know, I have lived in it so long. I don't mind the issues that it has. Like now, right now, it has an issue where Plasma Shell keeps crashing. It doesn't crash very often for me, but for other users a lot. But I don't care. It happens.
Oh.
I wait for it to get fixed and move
Are
on
the-
with my
are- are
life.
the-
I don't complain.
Are the bugs with plasma part of the reason why here in the last couple of months, especially, we've noticed that you're starting to talk like you're becoming a GNOME fanboy, like that's your next move?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying I'm moving
No?
to anything else. But plasma has been irking me as of late,
I
especially
mean,
now.
you can change your desktop environment. It's okay, Steve. Nobody cares.
No, but there is an issue currently for us distro maintainers that's causing us to knock our heads against the wall. Is why did KDE decide suddenly to make Kwin not support software render? Because we noticed that for AMD and Intel, it's not a problem because the drivers are part of the kernel. But for NVIDIA users who are expected to have the driver installed, Kwin Wayland will peg the CPU at 100% until you have your drivers installed, making it impossible to use your desktop. You move your mouse like 30 seconds later or up to a minute later, the mouse actually moves. They decided, hey, well, Wayland needs hardware acceleration, so naturally Kwin Wayland will require your drivers to be installed. And if you have Nouveau enabled, the open source NVIDIA kernel, whatever, enabled, it's going to battle with Kwin Wayland wanting to take over, and they keep fighting each other for supremacy, causing the CPU to be pegged at 100%. My solution for the time being was to blacklist Nouveau completely on the ISO, on all my ISOs. Well, KDE ISO only, because Kwin is part of KDE on GNOME and on since I announced it on the upcoming Cosmic spin, no issue whatsoever, just KDE.
Yeah, there's going to be almost nobody probably that has an NVIDIA card that would want to run the Nouveau driver. Not on a normal distribution. Maybe some of the free software approved distros. Obviously they got no choice.
Say that,
but
you say that, but this is what Zero Linux used to use to boot the live environment to get the user to install the OS. But now I had to blacklist it, and it will. And if you boot the KDE version of Zero Linux right now, it's going to act as if it was in no mode set, only for NVIDIA users. So if you have 3 monitors or 2 monitors, only 1 monitor will function until you install the drivers post-install.
Well, I always like the distros that would ask you ahead of time, do you want us to boot using the free drivers, or would you rather use the proprietary?
Yeah, Arco Linux. HashiOS. But I don't know how to do that. I tried it. I tried to copy Eric Dubois' methodology. It didn't work. So I was like, I'll do what the only thing I know is blacklist Nouveau. It's not a problem. It's temporary, since users will be forced to install the drivers later on.
Luckily, I don't have any KDE programs installed, so I don't have to deal with a lot of that mess. Other than Kdenlive, which Kdenlive last few updates have been great. Yeah, it renders fast these days. Every now and then it goes through periods of weird things, but right now, everything is good with the new version of GIMP, though. The 3 series. I have problems with fonts. I don't know if you guys do, like selecting fonts. I have a lot of fonts on my system. I think it's part
I don't touch.
Yeah,
I don't
console
touch
fonts.
Yeah.
I don't touch
selecting the fonts. Using the font tool. Sometimes it won't even let me select a font out of the menu. It's really annoying.
Yeah, I don't touch GIMP. Another announcement to everyone out there: Zero Linux no longer uses X11. It got rid of X11 completely. Both GNOME and KDE. For KDE, it's easy to bring X11 back because it's simply 2 packages: Kwin X11 and Plasma X11 work session. You install those 2 packages, you got X11 back. It's in the toolkit. If you want to install, you get X11 back, easy. Just select the option in the toolkit and it will reinstall X11. But moving forward, Zero Linux, both spins are Wayland only. I joined the club.
Well, I mean, you're doing essentially Wayland compositors anyway, so there's no reason to ship XOR right with GNOME or Plasma right now. And then Hyperland obviously has no X11 support. I mean, it's designed for Wayland. Yeah, so there's no reason for you.
Reports earlier this week that OpenManjeva has already packaged the new fork Ex Libre.
Yeah, I saw that. But I don't take anything out from a distro without giving you the ability to re-enable it via the toolkit. That's the wrong impression people got. Like when I announced that Zero Linux moved completely to Wayland, they were like, "You shouldn't force your users to something that doesn't work for them." I was like, "Launch the toolkit, reinstall X11, done deal." And for GNOME, you just have to remove one setting.
If you've got 3 editions, I mean, GNOME is dropping X11 completely anyway. Like those folks have no, and Hyperland's nothing but Wayland. There's no Xorg version, so
why are they complaining?
It has to just be the KDE folks that are still. But at some
because
point they're going to drop support too. I mean,
because it's fresh off the shelf basically.
And if they're doing anything that's purely a X11 window manager, well, when they install the window manager, it's going to pull in X11 anyway. So those folks, it'll be on your system, right? It's like,
and there's nothing to stop them from using the new fork if distribution starts dropping the Xorg version.
Well, it's already packaged in the AUR for Arch users, I imagine. I haven't checked the chaotic AUR. Once there's binaries in the chaotic AUR, that'll help things out.
There are the chaotic AUR. They already.
I figured there would be some rather quickly. So
but there are some people against it, some people with it. So it's as with everything that is new. And like when I showed off, when I made the video showing off the new upcoming Cosmic edition of Zero Linux, this video got more views, and it's up to I think 1,500 views in 3 days. It's my highest viewed video, and people are looking forward to it. And it's only Wayland. So why are you complaining about KDE being only Wayland if you're ready to use something that's only Wayland that doesn't have X11 to begin with?
I checked the Repology site, and OpenManjeva is the only one of the distribution that they follow, which is just about everything. OpenManjeva is the only one who has packaged and pushed a package on the development branch.
Yeah, and AUR has chaotic AUR has them on their repo, so whoever wants to use it can use it, because the chaotic AUR, they don't care. They just package anything that they feel like packaging, and that's it.
You can send them a request, for packages that aren't already built. They might add it. They'll create binary packages of anything if there's enough interest in it.
Yep. Exactly. That's
and the next year will show if there really is interest in the distribution among some distributions to keep the X11 going by them starting to include X Libre. It will be apparent within the next year.
We'll see. We'll see if Xmonad and Qtile will ship with X11 or X Libre.
Well, I mean, that'll probably depend on how it's packaged on each distribution.
Yeah, but we'll see. Only time will tell. Which brings me to a question I wanted to ask everyone in chat watching, because this is a topic that's been nagging at me for the past few weeks, especially now that I'm back to YouTube. It's a good discussion question. If you want to leave the comments after the fact, leave comments in the video under the video. But I would really sincerely love to know your opinion on: do you think that having so many distributions is feeding the what is it? Oh my God, my brain is going too slow today. Is feeding the fragmentation, or is it a good thing?
Well, I'll tell you right off. I mean, right now with the stuff, the people that PewDiePie is going to bring in, the real big noobs where they have no idea what Linux is, it's going to be total cluster. And I won't use the other part because it doesn't deserve. It's going to be a total cluster for them. But we as a community can embrace them. And when they come in and ask the really newbie questions, we embrace them and say, okay, first off, what type of system do you have? What do you want? What do you want to do? And be gentle with them like a newborn baby. That's the only way that anything is going to be somewhat successful.
Yeah,
Wow.
and how easy it's going to be depends on if PewDiePie actually recommends a small section, a small variants of distributions for them to test out. That will be important for how successful the test of from the new beginners will be.
Well,
But
as far as the number of distributions, I mean, we've always had, you know, hundreds of Linux distributions available forever. It's like, it's just, I don't know if it's actually changed. I don't know if it ever will change. It's also not something, it's almost a pointless discussion because it's not like you have any control over people creating their own Linux distributions. People are going to do what they want to do. I mean, it is what it is, right? It's just
but
that's just free and open source software. That's the nature of it. We just have to deal with it how it is.
The Linux distributions is the thing that proves the point of the XKCD comic a few years ago about there being so many standards, and they built a new one to include everything, and now they have just another standard. Linux is like that. You know, as soon as someone starts making a distribution that actually does fit everyone, you will have this that does fit everyone and all the rest in addition. So
and Hipdad, your answer hit the nail on the head. But unfortunately, this is what I see wrong currently in the Linux community. It's very hard to find someone who's going to welcome total newbies with the way you said. Mostly what I see nowadays is you're dumb for having chosen that. You shouldn't have chosen that. You should have chosen that because this is better than that. And everybody
it depends on the community that they and a lot of that'll just be random luck because they won't know which communities to go to.
Exactly.
But I know what you're saying. You're talking about going to Reddit, right? So don't go. Don't go to any Reddit,
no matter what.
You know, just don't
like
do it.
Reddit, Gentoo community, Arch community.
No, Gentoo's pretty friendly. I'll give them that. They're going to tell those people not to run Gentoo, but they'll be friendly about it.
What I have often suggested people do is figure out if they have some friends that uses Linux and ask them for advice on what to do, because chances are they are the ones who are going to get you started, and Linux is a phenomenon that once you actually start learning it, most people will become self-sufficient in how to do things.
Okay, most people who are serious about switching from Windows are usually I hate to word it this way, but it's the best way I can word it, are intelligent enough to Google and find reliable resources on how to first jump into the deep end of the pool. And then, and also, you know, find friends that have used it, experiment a little bit, you know, with a live CD, that kind of thing, you know, find out your venues, you know, and take it nice and slow and easy. And that's usually what I tell people is don't just totally dive in the deep end. Don't do the old thing back in the Debian days where you check the box that said everything. You know, you just don't do that.
I'm pulling up my phone and I just asked Google beginner Linux distros, and the 3 top results that it recommends: Mint, Ubuntu, Zorin OS. And I know a little bit about those 3 communities.
Yeah,
they're fine. Like they're not going to be toxic to anybody that's brand new that knows nothing about Linux.
But I disagree with the Linux Mint being a newbie-friendly Linux distro. None of them can be on the surface. On the surface, no. Let me explain why. Let me explain why. My good friend Airmax. Some of you know him, others don't. He's just a YouTuber. He's French, living in Canada, but he did it the best way possible. He did it himself. He has never used Mint. Okay, he was a total noob to Mint. He had some Linux knowledge, but he came into Mint and he put himself in the shoes of a total noob who doesn't understand what Linux is. On the surface, Mint is super easy to understand. If all you use is Facebook and YouTube, Linux Mint is for you. But if you're a gamer, it is not for you. Why?
Why?
Because why? I'll explain why. I'm not saying without having proof behind it. Because okay, Linux Mint ships with outdated NVIDIA drivers. In order to get the latest versions, the user has to Google how to add the PPA.
PPA, because you got Ubuntu's PPA for it. That's what I was.
Yeah, you have, but the newbie user will not see this as something friendly, because adding a PPA is already complex enough, and when they add the PPA, they're going to see multiple versions of the NVIDIA driver.
But
they don't know which one is
really
which.
Noobs?
That to me isn't a problem. First of all, because
gamers aren't noobs.
Gamers aren't noobs. They can figure it out.
No, let's be clear. I have experience working with actual gamers who aren't techies,
right?
Like professional, exactly what I meant. Amateur professional gamers, like those who compete in amateur competitions. They're and I'm gonna insult, but they are compared to you, me, idiots when it comes to technology. It's not like they are not techie people, even if they play games at a professional level. To them, it's just a tool to get a job done. What I'm going to ask you, Dark Zero, is do most of them actually care whether it is a new or old NVIDIA version?
It's not about that. It's not about that. You missed the point, Big Pod. You missed the point. It's if they have a new enough card, it's not going to function on the drivers shipped by Linux Mint. You will be forced to update the drivers to be able to play the games you want to play, because the drivers shipped by Mint, they're going to tell you, hey, we don't support ray tracing, we don't support G-Sync on your card, it's too new, you want to.
But guess what? Most of them still know how to Google. Yes, they are at a much lower level, but they will know how to Google. Believe me,
yes,
they will.
They will know how to Google, but in my experience, I'm talking about for the past month or two, people are like, hey, this distro sucks. It's asking me to do these. I don't want to waste time. I just want to install it, get up and running, and get my games, get into my games. They don't want to go typing commands in terminal. They don't want to Google. They don't want anything. They want to be.
But Steve,
that is a genuine Linux problem.
Yeah,
because we tell them it's gonna be like this. Yeah. Because we who advertise Linux to other people, tell them it's plug and play. Tell them it's really easy.
You
tell
hit the nail on the head, Big Pod.
I didn't finish yet. I didn't finish yet. Because if you look at Windows, which is what gamers use, it takes them, most of them, hours if they are reinstalling or if they're buying a new computer. Wanna know why? No. Because they have to install proper NVIDIA driver. Because if they don't, they're gonna have worse performance, because you get a version of the driver that is
but here's the thing with Windows.
They are used to it, and it is not advertised to them that it is easy, that everything just works, that everything comes with the kernel, that all drivers come with kernel, stuff like that. That is something we need to stop advertising.
Yes, and this is where you hit the nail on the head.
But there is another problem. We need to stop with the idea of gaming distros.
Yes.
We need to stop
Thank
idea
you.
with
Thank you.
specialized distros. There should
Thank
be
you, Big
there
Boss.
should be about 20 distros that should be, and that should be the most general distros ever with as little stuff installed as possible, just enough to get online, just enough to edit files, with basically just as bare bones as Windows is.
I have one problem with what Steve, I know Steve wasn't necessarily trying to take a shot at Linux Mint, but your criticisms of it were really criticisms of all static release distros that, you know, the drivers are old. I mean, that's not a Mint problem. That's all distros.
But again, I don't know. Today a miracle has happened. Maybe an angel just landed and decided to create a miracle. But today, what Big Pod said, everything he said today is true, 100% true. This is my argument. This is why I asked the question, because it's our fault. It's our fault. The way we advertise distros is the worst thing we can do. We're advertising them wrong, and calling a distro, we have to stop calling a distro, this is a gaming distro, this is a coding distro, this is a specialized distro for this, and that. They're all, whatever the distro ships with, like let's say Bazite. Bazite is advertised as a gaming distro, but you know what? You can turn it into a coding distro just by installing the tools you need for coding. Oh, by some miracle, it has become a coding distro without having to install a different distro altogether. It's the same distro. Just install the apps you need, and there you go.
Actually, here I have a slightly different take as you. So, yes, there will always be distros to be specialized at one thing, but those are appliances. What we are trying to sell them as is general distros that are specialized for gaming, that are not appliances that we are trying to sell them to use for everything. Whereas Bazite, if you actually look at things, they literally trying to sell it as a distro to play games on, and because it is a computer, you can do other stuff, just like SteamOS.
Yeah, but they're not making it. They're not making it apparent. The way if you tell any user, you ask any user who has heard of Bazite, you ask them, what is Bazite to you? A gaming distro. That's
difficult.
Yes.
Difficult gaming distro.
Here is and here is the second problem, or third problem, really, the nomenclature. Remember, you know what kind of distro do I use normally?
General distro.
Windows.
No. I was looking for the word immutable distro. Because
immutable
I use Silverblue. Yes.
Yeah.
You know that has never been a correct word to say, immutable. Because
it has an atomic. It's
because
called atomic.
No, not because of that. Because it isn't immutable because there are things you can change.
Yeah, right.
At the runtime. The point is, a lot of things in Linux have wrong or bad names just because
I hate the name. The whole immutable distro thing has always bugged me, because I've heard from like Linux noobs say, hey, should I run an immutable distro because you can't change anything on it? And it's like, no, you can change everything.
I've heard that from people who are Linux veterans who know a hell of a lot more about Linux than I do. I've heard that sort of statement.
Oh yeah, I've heard some content creators claim that you can't change packages, like you can't install packages. It's like, no, you can.
But
we are not a descriptive community. That's one of the faults too, is because you go to DistroWatch and the description.
No, it's not that.
Well,
it's because we're engineers and we tend to be horrible at naming things. It's an engineer problem. And Linux is first and foremost an engineering centered sphere of thinking, because at the end of the day, most of us who currently use Linux are one way or another engineers.
Yes, but here's the thing. I tend to try my best, even as a distro maintainer, and that's why the way I built Zero Linux I didn't build it as a specialized distro. I keep telling my users, Zero Linux is a distro, general distro. You can turn it into a gaming distro, you can turn it into a coding distro, content creation distro, or all of them combined. That's why I didn't call Zero Linux gaming, Zero Linux coding, Zero Linux multimedia. Not a lot of distros do advertise themselves correctly. Like CachyOS. CachyOS never advertised themselves as anything. They advertise themselves as an optimized distro, general optimized distro. People, for whatever, or some developers or people suddenly decided to call it CachyOS, the best gaming Arch-based gaming distro out there. Gaming. Why did they add? Did they have to add the word gaming to it? And I talked to the CachyOS developers like Peter and others. Well, Peter made it clear. He was like, I don't care what it's advertised as long as it's not us advertising it. It's not on our shoulders. But it's people start describing distros as things they are not. And the problem is with a lot of people, a lot of newbies, it's either black or white. What is it is a gaming distro, then it's a gaming distro. In their head, it's going to be imprinted that it's a gaming distro. They're too afraid to do anything else on it.
Well,
that's weird. That's just weird.
No, that's because that happens because of how we show Linux to them. Because if we show them it's an operating system, just like Windows, it wouldn't be a problem. Yes, you have appliance versions for it, just like you have appliance versions of Windows, like Xbox OS, like the new version of Windows for Aerogiala Xbox. Those are appliance versions of Windows. But at the end of the day, it's all Windows.
Yeah.
At the same time, and there might be a problem because we use the word distribution.
Yeah.
We shouldn't call
them, and we shouldn't call FOSS free open source software. We should call it LOS Libre open source software.
we should just call it open source. We should not get into these nuanced arguments about free and open source software, because for one, free, libre, whatever, has a very negative connotation because of various things and because it's idiotic. And same is the problem of arguing Linux versus new Linux.
The
new Linux, because
the problem with the terminology. The problem with the terminology with free was that when Stallman used free software in the late 70s or whatever, the problem is at the time or shortly after, certainly the idea of freeware software came about, and we all know what we think of freeware. That's usually like the worst garbage software. like people naturally confuse the two. So.
But to his credit, Stallman has said in a few Q&As after a few talks that if he had to do it again, knowing what we know now, he would have chose a different term than free software. Because he didn't know at the time that it would be confused, because the term is only confusing in English.
Yeah.
Yes, the term is only confusing in English, but it's also confusing for non-Americans in many ways. Because
in English the term free means two specific things. It means either something is free of charge. It's either something is free of charge, or it's something to do with freedom. And
what I'm trying to say is that in US is a lot less confusing than, let's say, even in Britain, much more in Europe, because there is much more. In US, it's much more, to say this, much more importance on the freedom, on the free. Whereas in Europe, it tends to be more about rights, not freedoms.
Yeah.
Because rights means you also have obligations in Europe. Whereas in US it's all about freedom, as in the absolutist version of rights, where obligations really take a back seat.
Yeah. Guys, I'm going to take a couple of minutes here.
That becomes a big problem.
Yeah, hold on just a second, Big Pod, because I haven't really paid attention to the chat, so I am going to answer a couple of questions that were asked a while back, and I meant to answer. Somebody was asking when I'm going to use Wayland, when it's ready on the window manager that I'm using. I'm using Qtile. Qtile has an X11 and a Wayland version. Right now I'm using X11. But when it works just fine and, it's not going to cause me any headaches, I'll already be on Qtile. I'll just log into its Wayland session rather than the X11 session. But right now I'm going to stick to X11 because it works. Beyond that, he asked me specifically why wouldn't I just switch to Hyperland? Because I like Qtile better as far as a window manager. I'm not going to switch to a window manager just because it uses X or Wayland. I don't care about the display server, which one I like to use the most, right? It's more about the window manager, not the display server. So I like Qtile and other X11 window managers. Once they're ready for Wayland, though, I've got no problem moving to Wayland once the window managers I want to use are there. Somebody else was also asking about immutable distros. It's confusing to them. What's the whole idea about it? The whole idea about it is when things break, you can roll back to a previous state. You can think of it almost as a built-in way of snapshotting things. So theoretically, it's immutable and that the distro shouldn't break, but that's not really the case. If you do enough stupid things, you can break the distros anyway.
There's someone in chat who said Nobara and Bazite may have to rebase themselves on Arch.
No, that's an insane idea. First of all, to get especially for Bazite, Nobara maybe not, but especially for Bazite, that would be an extremely tall order. Because guess what? The technology is primarily technology they're using for
they'd have to scrap
immutability.
Everything. Yeah,
they would have to know they could use a lot of things. The problem is that they would have to actually build things for Arch, the back end of it, the behind the scenes.
I mean, you had to rebuild every single package, right?
OS3 things, the OS3 things, the what is called?
Valve did it.
Yes, Valve did, but not to the level Bazite works. Valve just did the OS3 thing. Bazite goes 3 levels further with its use of OS3, because that's how far further Silverblue that goes.
You also can't compare a company like Valve to every other distro, because Valve's got a lot of money. They can do a lot of things that other folks can't.
Also important note, Bazite and Nubara could also build the 32-bit libraries themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's we're gonna discuss that a little bit later because I have a question about that. But
they just need to copy those build files to their own servers and rent a couple of build servers and just run them. They could even do it together because they do collaborate sometimes, so they could do it together. Or they could do it separate. It's not a problem like that people think it is. It's a more of a time suck annoyance than anything else.
Yeah, which brings me to my friend Airmax again, because he did a lot of good things lately. Shout out to Airmax. Salut Papa Max. But he mentioned something along the lines. He did a video where he tested various distros on the Steam Deck, and although Bazite has a deck version, it performed the worst of the bunch.
Yeah,
CachyOS won that battle compared to Bazite, but because Bazite is still work in progress, CachyOS, especially that the CachyOS main dev Peter works for Arch now, so they got low-level access to packages. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have that kind of knowledge. But do Bazite have someone working for Fedora to get the first hand at things, or they're just doing everything outside Fedora, just adding on top? I don't know. But for CachyOS, they got first dibs on packages, optimized packages, and Arch is a little bit more lightweight than Fedora is. But yeah, all I know is Bazite had the worst results of the bunch. He compared CachyOS, Bazite, what did he compare? Two other distros and Windows.
Mhm.
He even included Windows in the bunch, and Windows was the worst of them all. But when it comes to Linux distros, the worst one of the Linux distros was Bazite. So
At what? Sorry, I wasn't
gaming on the
I guess
Steam
some
Deck.
benchmarking, yeah.
It resulted in it had the worst benchmark results of them all.
Okay, and that's relevant how? No, I'm really asking. That's relevant how? Because
Bazite is advertising itself as a gaming distro, gaming first distro. And
okay, let me ask you a
gaming.
question. What's the percentage spread between top distro or top operating system and the lowest?
No. The top the difference was a maximum of it was 13% worse than CachyOS, or no, 13% less than Steam Deck OS, Steam OS.
Okay, 13% less.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the second question: why is that relevant to anything?
Because, like I said, Bazite is advertising itself as a gaming.
Again, why is
distro.
it relevant? You're not thinking. Why is that relevant to anything? Why is the fact that they are slightly slower at frame rate?
Because that's what users care about. Because more FPS equals better to regular users. Less FPS is worse.
My problem with this, guys, is just because Bazite or any gaming distro calls itself a gaming distro doesn't mean something like Cachy, even though they don't call it a gaming distro, isn't also optimizing for gaming performance. Like the benchmark, I think, Steve, you're thinking that because it calls itself a gaming distro, like the other distros aren't doing a lot of the same optimizations, and that's why they're performing just as well.
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the regular user who thinks bigger number equals better. They don't know the details.
You know what? I guess most users.
No, Steve. The problem is, do regular users actually go and look at how each distro performs? They're gonna install what is easiest to them for use, because let's remember that we're talking about people who do not watch YouTube videos, who do not read articles to see which distro will perform better or which operating system will perform better. All they care about is that they can play their games at a playable frame rates. Yes, bigger number better. But
when I hear the term gaming distro,
only works for them in their own bubble.
When I hear the term gaming distro, I'm not thinking about benchmarking. I'm thinking it's already set up for gaming. Is usually what I'm thinking when I hear the term.
You just have to drop on your system and you can go and start playing games.
Yep.
It's not about them gaining performance.
Fix
They're
stuff
getting
later.
slightly better performance.
But there are people who watch videos.
And Steve, another problem to ask you is 30% on what FPS? Because 13% means nothing if you do not tell me if it's 60. If 60 FPS, 13
it doesn't reach 60 FPS. In some games it couldn't go above 24. They were called, hey, it's a movie, we're watching a movie, we're not playing a game, we're watching a movie. Here's my argument. A lot of people watch YouTube videos and there was a video that I watched recently who nailed it hit the nail on the head. Who basically nailed it. It's the fact that bigger number is not better. You have to look at the frame times. If you have consistent frame times, then you can call it good. If you have 1,000 FPS, but your frame times all over the place, then you're not having a smooth performance. So you cannot see bigger number equal better.
The right question is 99 percentile, 90 percentile, 95 percentile frame times. There is so much data that needs to go into what is actually smooth experience. You can have smooth experience with 24 FPS compared to having
if your frame times
120.
Yes.
120.
And there are also different ways to that they measure what's easy and what's convenient. For some gamers, the only thing that they care about as opposed to what's easy is how easy to get going, to install something. If they need to start tweaking 3 or 4 files just to get something usable, they're not going to keep doing it for much longer. They're going back to something else or back to Windows. So that's why some of these gaming specific distributions are a good thing. Some are better than others, obviously, where they are configured so that there is least amount of steps needed to be done in order to actually get going, which is what they care about.
I'm gonna say it like this. So I as a gamer, I in my opinion, I should have least resistance possible to play games. When I decide I want to play, let's say, X game that maybe never run, maybe I have it installed but I haven't yet run ever on the system. When I decide I want to go play this game, to being actually in the game and in the game itself, how quickly do I get between point of wish to point of actually playing? And that's the big problem, because that's why I run a VM of Windows that has a graphics card in it, because that is a better experience for me to go from I want to play a game to actually playing any game than I ever had on Linux. And and every device I run runs Linux as its primary operating system, except my mobile devices because they run Android, which is actually Linux anyway.
The problem,
it's a separate Linux system.
The problem that is causing people to say that Linux is fragmented is because of all the specialized distros, the appliance distros that are out there. But if you look at it from the correct point of view, all distros can do a lot at the same time. They might do gaming better than other distros. The appliance distros might do gaming, for example. The gaming appliance distros might do gaming better than regular distros, but that doesn't mean it is worth at other things at the same time.
Yes.
So nobody's looking at them from the correct point of view. Thus, they're calling it fragmented. Linux is not fragmented.
The problem with fragmentation is that there is about 100 distros that are trying to accomplish the same goal in every category. So why the hell we need I'm gonna go really simply, why the hell do we need why the hell do we need Nobara, Bazite? Okay, those actually make sense. Why do we need Chimera OS and like 20 other gaming distros when they could all be 3 distros? Because at the end of the day, they're trying to accomplish the same goal, in many cases in exactly the same way.
Yes.
Well, the answer is we don't need it, but the people that are creating those distros need it.
Yes.
Because they want to do it for fun. And it's not about us, right? It's about what they want to do.
And it's also about
that. Easily join any of those teams.
It's the
they
same
could easily have joined any
of
those teams.
So it's the same reason for why any other distribution someone wants to do something slightly different than what already exists, and
that's the problem.
and as part of doing that, they some of them realize that, oh, maybe someone else also might want to do it this way, so they start a distribution, and then the ball gets rolling on some of them.
And that's a giant problem we need to stop. Like, because we can shouldn't be the reason to start. Sorry, but 99% of distros, like, in my opinion, there should be at best in current times about 30 distros, maybe 40 with and I'm gonna be very specific. There is about 7 base distros, and in reality, all of them, the only difference between them is package manager and nothing else. And how package is a package, but that is
let's stick to the basis, right? Just we need those are the basics. Debian, Arch, Fedora, Slackware, Gentoo. I only got to 5. Forget the rest.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Then on top of that, there should be in every of those distros there should be a atomic or immutable version, because there are people who actually want that. Like me, I want I've recently switched to Gentoo, and I've been very quickly reminded of why the hell I use immutable systems.
Well, I'm gonna
so much less problems that are caused that are solely caused by traditional package manager, and I just find them.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, Big Pod, because I was going to answer another question in the chat. Somebody was asking, was ButterFS snapshots similar to what the immutable distros are doing? It's similar because you can roll back to a previous generation, but the ButterFS snapshots are a file system thing, like it's specific to ButterFS, where what the immutable distros, they're doing it at the package level with their store of packages. So you could use theoretically any file system you wanted to.
It's a bit more complicated than that, because then you come to the level of images and all that, which is then built on top of a file system. File system shouldn't have anything to do with how your operating system is.
Yeah,
but you can only use ButterFS snapshots with ButterFS was my point.
Yes.
Where with
also that's a big problem. Like
with something like NixOS, for example, you could use extend 4 and still be fine on the
That's the point, because then a file system encroaches on your operating system, on how your operating system works, and that's not a good idea ever.
File systems are bloat.
File systems are a good thing. They just need to be for what they are.
But here's the thing. Lately ButterFS on Arch is broken, so everybody's dropping it in their distros for the time being. But I want to prove you, BigPod, wrong, because many of my friends on Discord and on Postodon and other places tried immutable or atomic distros, only to break them within and break the imaging system in them after 20 minutes of use. The longest someone lasted was an hour and a half.
Look, I'm gonna you can break them easily if you're just doing stupid shit. You
literally can break anything. It's not hard.
Give me an immutable distro with OS3. I can break it in less than a minute. Since I know how.
You put me in immutable, and it's going to be unbootable. It's going to be an unbootable immutable in about 30 minutes.
I'm just going to go into /boot and delete everything, and boom, I broke it. Right?
If you're going to use it like a normal computer, you won't break it. Believe me. Like, unless you go do stupid shit like trying to under like very extreme conditions, which are not normally a thing, which a lot of these who break actually do, you will not be breaking a system. Like I've given to some really, really extreme people who do extreme stuff on their systems, giving them immutable distros, and they're still work just fine.
But they shouldn't be
because
called immutable. They shouldn't be called immutable.
They shouldn't be called immutable. We've been over that once. They should be called something else, because immutable means the whole system cannot change. We know that. I hate it. I hate it so fucking much you can't believe it, because it's an absolutely wrong thing to say.
All right, let's watch our language, Big Pod.
Someone else did it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
big
F
Pod,
bombs.
I'm reminded
let's
of,
keep it
not
family
knock it
friendly.
all. Hissy,
I'm
fissy.
reminded of the fact that the history is full of people breaking things without knowing it, and the first man allegedly broke the world because some lady told him to eat something. So we are in good company.
It's not.
Yeah, but let's shift the subject a little bit, because I want to talk about applications you recently discovered that are that have existed for a long time but you never heard of, that you discovered that are very useful, extremely useful.
I
Hidden
want to make
gems.
I want to make one point before we go
Oh,
somewhere
okay.
else.
Yeah.
One of the things that would probably be very helpful with the Linux community is from one website, is DistroWatch. I would love to see them make a qualification for the ability to be listed on their website. I believe that a distribution that wants to be on that website should have at least 6 months of reliability as an actual performing functional distribution before it's listed. It shouldn't be listed the first 2 days it's created. It really shouldn't.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's your apps that you just discovered that have existed for a long time? You're just now finding
X-Crash. I mean, K-Crash.
K-Crash.
K-Crash. Wonderful. Wonderful.
I tried to find the
installed by default on Arch KDE.
Okay.
It's a terminal-based app. It's a terminal binary. It's not an actual GUI.
No, it isn't. It was right in my app list, and I've got it on my panel bar, and it pops right up in a GUI.
Well, I don't have it.
And what is this K-Crash that you discovered? I've never heard of this.
Yeah, I didn't hear of it either until it popped up on my list, and I was like, "What's this?" And what it does is it lists when you have a crash within like I've got open RGB, Plasma Shell, Discord, system settings, GNOME logs even, which I don't even have GNOME installed, Plasma Shell, Rhythmbox, LACT, Python 3.12. Yeah.
Oh, weird.
And it's not a terminal base.
I don't
you
have
could
it on my
probably
system.
start it from terminal base, but you can go into PAMAC and install it, or any software you have.
I don't have it on Zero Linux, so I installed K-Crash and it ended up being a terminal app because I don't see it in my menu.
Did you install it through Discovery or whatever?
Well, not Discover, but I installed it from the Arch repositories. The only K-Crash that was there was a terminal app.
Huh. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I got it through it. It was installed by default with Plasma.
It might be one of those programs that has a command line and a GUI version.
And there are a few commands, and there are a few programs that compiles both as a terminal and a GUI, and by default, it if you don't have some dependency installed, it will compile only the terminal versions.
Yeah, that's correct.
And it's in the extra repositories.
Yeah, I'm sure all of us are familiar with how the transmission BitTorrent client works. It has a CLI program that gets installed if you want to run it in the terminal, and it's got the GTK version of it that gets installed if you want to run it like normal people with a GUI. But
HipDad K-Crash is KCRASH.
Yeah, KCRASH, and it's a version 6.1.
Based on what I'm seeing, that's not a GUI application. That cannot be GUI application. I'm looking at the actual code. There is no GUI component to it based on what I see. There must be something else that is.
Could be a script that's written around it.
It has
distribution.
There's an Arch. It's optional dependencies is Dr. Conky, KDE Crash Handler application.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's Dr. Conky. Yeah, I can see it right here.
But this also reminds me. There are. I discovered this because I am the upstream maintainer, not the developer, but the maintainer of the old the GNOME RIP program called GRIP. And in 2008 or 9, it was the development stopped and Debian dropped it, and all the downstream distros also dropped it as a result. And somewhere along the line, someone else created a terminal application of some kind which does something completely different, which was also called grip. So so we are now in a situation where in a lot of the RPM-based distributions, you have a GUI application called grip. And if you install the same application on Debian, it is a terminal application that does something completely different. So that might also be some of the confusion here.
I found it. I have found it, and it's called Crashed Processes Viewer.
Yeah, that's what it's called when you hover over it. But as far as the actual installer, it's Kcrash.
Yeah, it uses Dr. Conky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just found it. I just opened it.
Yeah,
well,
there's
nice
a lot
discovery.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of programs like that have the same name, but they're different programs. One of the obvious ones, if you do, you guys are probably familiar with the rename command line tool, rename.
Yeah.
Well, depending on what distro you're on, that's actually two totally different programs. Like on Arch, I think it's like a C or C++ program, but on like Debian, it's like a Perl based program. And they don't even operate the same. They don't even use the same flags. Two totally different programs, and it can be confusing, especially if you write a script thinking it's going to use that rename program, but it's not the same program on all distros.
Yeah, and some of them are GUI based. That's fragmentation in the application department. But as for the app that I discovered recently that has existed for the longest time and that is useful, a friend of mine discovered it actually. He sent it to me, and I was like, huh? Well, actually, it's Matt's Creative. I don't know if you guys know him, but it's an application called Save Desktop. It's available as a Flatpak, and it allows you to save your entire desktop configuration. Not only that, it includes your Flatpak settings, everything, your games, your everything, your entire home directory, basically. It's amazing, and it works. And it also has a feature, an amazing feature, to synchronize to an online cloud storage or a separate server you have set up in the house.
Yeah, having the ability to store it in the cloud somewhere. And many will opt for a local Nextcloud. But having the
but
ability
never
to
do it.
that
Never
is,
do it.
nice.
Never do it on the cloud, because your home directory contains your credentials, your FTP credentials, and your.
So that feature should only be used with a local Nextcloud instance.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice feature.
Yeah, I used it to synchronize to my home lab.
Nice.
So basically my NAS, but it's an amazing little app. It's a GTK based app. It's amazing. It feels out of place on KDE because it's a libadwaita app, but who cares?
Yeah.
Speaking of apps that we have discovered, there is a few years since I discovered this, but it's the example that comes to mind. In the old days, many still do. When you needed to, in the terminal, figure out which drives and so on you had installed, you run an fdisk command, and then you grep something, and it gives you what you're looking for. But it's a lot of text to browse through. So along the 8 or 10 years ago, something along those lines, I discovered a command called lsblk, which does the same in a very condensed format. And I still don't understand why a lot of YouTubers who make videos about how to check for these things,
they select fdisk.
At least 2/3 of them don't use this command at all. They all use fdisk for some reason.
Yeah, sudo fdisk. Yeah.
lsblk is part of the. Isn't lsblk part of the core utils?
I think so.
Yeah, it is.
And
fdisk is part of the Linux utils.
And unlike the fdisk utils, you don't need root privileges in order to view most of the information. There are some information that you need root privileges.
But I can tell you why a lot of content creators probably doing that listening with fdisk is because if they're running through like a Arch or a Gentoo installation or something, they know they're going to partition with fdisk. So a lot of times the guides they're reading tell them to use fdisk to list the drives and then run the fdisk whatever partition command.
Yeah, but those are for installing, which I can understand. But these are the videos that I'm thinking of. They talk about when you're plugging in a USB stick and you want to see if it is actually seen by the system. LSBLK is the easiest way to
yeah, by
check
far
it.
the easiest way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, guys, I want everyone to call me an idiot.
Okay, you're an idiot.
You were an idiot.
You're almost definitely an idiot. We all know that.
We've been saying that for years, man.
Yeah, because it took me maybe 7 years of using Linux to discover that Network Manager has a TUI.
Yeah.
I just discovered it as a TUI. I never knew it as a TUI. I always configured it using the GUI.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, it has a TUI.
It's not something
okay.
I don't know. Like, how often do you need to really play with Network Manager anyway? Once you enable the service, like it's not something you ever really go back to.
I'll tell you how it came in clutch. Many times since discovering it, it has come clutch where I'm stuck in TTY and I didn't know how to configure the network.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's clutch when things like that happen. So yeah, I just discovered it. Sorry, 7 years of using Linux, and only now do I discover something as neat as.
No, yeah, I mean you got to have the terminal application. You got to have the little sys tray icon. You got to have everything with Network Manager.
Yeah,
but even even the little network icon, the sys tray icon, I never use it. The only thing it's there for is like if the internet goes down, the icon changes. It lets me know I've got no internet. But
for you, but for me, it's because I have two connections. I have my main ISP and I have the LTE ISP, whose sole purpose is to keep my home lab exposed to the internet. And because on my main internet, my upload speed is 0.5 megabits per second. Yeah, it is that bad. On my LTE connection, it's 40 megabits up. So I use that one to do things on, and it's connected to all my systems. So in case my main ISP goes down, I need the network manager to disable one connection and enable the other, because I don't have them enabled at the same time all the time. Because the LTE connection is capped at 50 gigabytes per month. So I got to watch what I'm using.
Okay, I have something for people that love borking their SDDM.
Yeah, please.
Which I don't love doing, but I do it. If you happen to bork your SDDM and you're not able to log into your computer or start your graphical user interface, what you want to do is you get yourself to a TTY. I believe it's Control-Alt-F4. Get yourself to the TTY, and you do a dbus-run-session start plasma start plasma -Wayland, and it'll start. If you're in Wayland, you start in, and it'll start you, get you back into the GUI, and you can fix your SDDM and go on, rather than reinstalling the whole system.
Speaking of login managers, Zero Linux Cosmic Edition right now is using not Cosmic Greeter, because Cosmic Greeter has cancer, as I call it, because it's got terminal cancer, because it doesn't work. Basically, it just keeps displaying error messages and then hangs the session. It never logs in. I use LightDM. It just works. LightDM is ugly as heck, but hey, as long as it works, it works. So login managers, they can be finicky, very finicky.
Can we talk about the? It's not an old program I'm just discovering, but it's a rather new release that I think we need to talk about, because I think it's going to become like a de facto standard on Linux operating systems, and that's the new Microsoft Edit. Terminal-based editor. Can we get rid of Nano and replace it with MS Edit?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this for 40 years.
No, but DT, you're joking. But
no, I'm not. I'm not. That's the thing. I'm not.
Zero Linux has it integrated. It's up to users to discover it, but it's there. As soon as I saw the video by Brody, I was like, I'm adding this to Zero Linux. Hey, I like it. I'm a Nano user. That takes Nano to another level.
Yeah.
As long as I can use Kate in Windows, I'll be fine.
Well, you like Kate?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hell. You're my brother. You're my true brother. Because I cannot live without Kate. All my coding is done on Kate.
Yeah, I use Vim for everything.
Huh? What's Vim?
It's cross-platform, available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Luckily, I use Emacs, so...
Yeah, I remember trying Emacs some years ago, and I couldn't figure it out, and I never looked back. I removed it.
I vaguely remember LaTeX.
Yeah,
still...
to me, to me, Vim is very icky meal.
Who?
Very icky meal. Icky, as in not tasty meal. Very icky meal. I don't know what Vim is. I use Nano and Kate. Nano, if I'm stuck in TTY, and Kate in any GUI desktop environment. I even have Kate installed on GNOME.
Yeah. Well, what Vim is it's VI improved. That's what it is.
Yeah. I know what it is. I was just kidding.
I remember Richard Stallman said he had a talk in Trondheim in 2005, I think it was, in February. And in the at the end of the talk, he mentioned, I think it was the talk has ended, and he had this Saint Ignatius thing that he does, which is kind of humorous. And he said that using a free version of VI is not a sin; it's a penance.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. I want to ask everyone, since we are mature adults.
Why not just ask me?
No, since we are mature air quotes enough adults here.
Speak for yourself.
Good luck with that.
Should new to Linux users, to Linux desktop users, instantly move to Linux or always have a dual boot with Windows?
A different machine.
It depends on if they have more than one machine. If they have more than one machine, dedicate one of them to use Linux on and have two separate systems.
Yeah, I hate the idea of dual booting. Like, I don't like that. That's usually not going to work out very well in the end.
It works out just fine. I've done it.
Yeah, I have dual boot. I recently dual booted because, as I made it clear time and time again, when I game, I cheat. I need my cheats. I need my trainers in the background. So on Linux, although technically they do work, but they work for a week and then they die for no reason because the tool that was making them work stopped being maintained for whatever reason. So the only thing I have installed on Windows is Steam, GOG, and Epic. That's it. Don't have anything else installed. Plus, of course, the trainer manager. I'm not going to say the name because it's not legal. But it's a trainer manager. That's all I have on Windows. I just log in, launch the game, launch the trainer, enjoy my game. I finished Doom: The Dark Ages in 10 hours because I had my cheats on. And that's it. Logged out of Windows, went back to Linux, and I forgot even Windows existed. I haven't booted into Windows for the past 3 weeks. So,
Steve, I meant to ask you this question earlier. Hold on just a second, Big Pod. Steve, I mentioned last month, or maybe the month before, I haven't been able to play Diablo 2 using bottles. In about
don't tell me Battle.net is hanging at 42%.
No, it just won't even launch. And you told me to use the GE Proton.
10.
It's still.
You tried the GE Proton 10?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's the way I use it. I even set up bottles fresh recently, and
maybe I just need to do a fresh reinstall. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
have you tried running it from the EXE, the straight Diablo EXE versus Battle.net?
Yeah, it doesn't work. It launches the intro and then crashes to the desktop. But here's yes, I encountered the same issue as you, DT.
Mm-hmm.
You have to clean up because for whatever reason, Battle.net is not updating. You're stuck on an old version of Battle.net.
I'll do a fresh install and see if it works.
It will work.
I was just trying to avoid it because it's got to download a ton of stuff, right? So.
Yeah, but you got a connection. I'm the one who should complain about downloading, not you. But that was the issue. As soon as I deleted the entire Battle.net folder.
Yeah, I'll reinstall.
I reinstalled it. It's working better than ever now. Better than ever. It's even fast, responsive. Just do not out. And another thing, start bottles. Oh, you don't have that option. Okay, no, forget it. But for my case, since I have only Wayland on my system, no X11, I had to make sure bottles launches in Wayland mode. I had to set the the ozone platform equals Wayland in Flatseal or whatever Flatpak manager you have. I use the KDE settings because KDE are the only desktop environment sane enough to include the Flatpak management into their settings. You don't need a third-party app. You don't need anything. You just manage everything from there. So I told it specifically to launch in Wayland mode, and everything was fine. And I have finished Diablo 4, the main story, finally, and now I need to begin the DLC. And here's the thing: you're gonna notice one thing in Diablo is because I hadn't touched Diablo 4 in such a long time. When I booted back into it, they gave me a waypoint, a purple waypoint to go to. I didn't understand what that waypoint meant. I kept doing the rest of the missions, and I was dying so frequently. So I in the end, I was like, I'll go to this purple waypoint. I'll see what it is all about. It's pay to win. As soon as I clicked on the check they were telling me to click on, I went from level 22 to level 52.
Yeah. I think they've had updates in Diablo 2 Resurrected as well. Even though I haven't played it, I think they've also introduced some ways to jump ahead a little bit on some things if you don't want to start it.
What the hell? That's cheating.
No.
Well, not really. The game's been out for years. People want to play it differently. I mean, it's not like.
You also, Steve, you have no point talking about cheating. Because you cheating games.
Yeah, I know. It was positive for me, but in general, I was talking in general. That's kind of a cheat for the people who don't like cheating.
No, the point is it's not really cheating because it's part of the game. The point is for returning players to get to the level so they can actually play the current content.
Because it takes so long to start at the beginning and get to the end. Hey, can you just get me halfway there and then start there? Right?
That's the point. You hear a lot of people in these kind of games, unless you're doing something like trying to get the character from start to finish. A lot of them will want to go into end game as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember the old Lemmings game for DOS.
Oh, yeah.
It had after each level that you completed, it displayed a code on the screen that you could write down. So if you wanted to start
from that level directly instead of having to start from the beginning. Many games had that. Like yesterday there was the Steam sale began, and oh boy, my wallet got hurt. But I finally was able to get Warhammer 400,000 Space Marine 2. And on GOG they had Space Marine 1, the remastered collection. I got that for $4. So now I have both Space Marine, and I don't know which one to begin with, but the download finished like 2 minutes before the stream started. So I'm going to switch to Windows as soon as we're done and give it a try. Of course, get the trainer first and then give it a try.
That reminds me, so I remember in the 90s and early 2000s, I used to play a game called Wing Commander Privateer, the first version. And so 2 years ago, I stumbled by accident upon a playlist of someone doing Let's Play walkthrough, playing through the game. So I was watching this playlist of Privateer, and only by watching this Let's Play did I discover that there is a story that you are supposed to follow playing the game. I never did that.
It's like me and Rex Nebular and Cosmic Gender Bender. If anyone heard of that game, that game is so unique and so rare that I don't know if a lot of people heard of it.
Yeah, if I have to go watch videos to understand what the point of the game is, it's probably not a game I want to play.
Well, the Rex Nebular and the Cosmic Gender Bender, the premise of that game is so simple. You're just one guy who crash landed on a planet that's run by nothing but women. And in order to get through the game, you have to go through the gender bender to bend your gender to turn you into a woman, so you can go through the game. Yes, it's that unique. They never made a remake or anything, and I am having a hard time finding the game to buy with the original soundtrack. Because now they just ship the game with the shittiest looping MIDI file, a single MIDI file that's looping throughout the game instead of shipping the game with the entire soundtrack. So
probably because they don't have copyright to that.
Yeah, and they don't have the rights to it. Yeah, so they
maybe, but it's a disappointment because the music is amazing. I have the soundtrack separately downloaded as a soundtrack, but I want to play the game with the soundtrack. But unfortunately, it's only available as a 50 megabyte download. So basically just the MIDI file in the game.
Yeah,
but it's an amazing game. I recommend anyone to play it. Yeah, please play the game. It's amazing. It's almost impossible to finish because there are places where no matter how much you try, you ain't gonna make it. The women are so bad.
We were talking about utilities or programs that you discovered that so last year in the data association that I'm a member of, so we have a few PowerEdge servers, and I have one in my own basement, and they have an SAS controller and the utility that you are supposed to use to control the drives without using the remote control eDruck and whatnot. Mega CTL is the CLE is the thing that most people use. One of our engineers discovered that there is a utility on GitHub that has existed for at least 10 years at this point that no one knew anything about. Mega CTL is the name of the repo on GitHub, and they have so unlike the proprietary vendor utility, this is an open source utility which only purpose is to give a list of all the drives that are installed and what RAID configuration they are configured in, and they list you if there are problems with anyone. And you can have and there is a cron script that you put in the cron weekly or cron daily, depending on how often you want email. And if there is a problem with the drives or with the battery on the SAS RAID controller, it will email you telling you what the problem is and where it is and so on.
That's a neat program.
Yeah, and he started looking for something like this because we had a big hard drive failure and we lost 10 years worth of data that is not recoverable.
That's
So
why I don't use
and it turns
rate
out that
intelligence anymore.
the built-in remote control thingy like IPME and EDRAC had been trying to send email. So we have a few disk arrays, which is a separate thing, which they only have a lot of drives, like 42. You can have we have 42 drives in one of those things. So we have two drives which are have network capability, and those two disk shelves have been trying for 2 years to send us emails about problems with the drives that are failing. And when enough drives failed, the RAID fell down, and we knew nothing about it because it wasn't set up right. So having a script like this, which can check the drives automatically through Chrome, is a lifesaver. So Mega CTL on GitHub is the thing to check out if you have and it works on a variety of vendors.
Yeah,
That's
cool.
why I do not like RAID card. That's why if I need a professional environment, I will always use HBAs. No matter what,
HBAs is
because
that's what I would do because
they
I had a bad
transparently-
experience with RAID.
because RAID cards don't necessarily transparently transmit smart data to the operating system, while HBAs do.
Yeah. There is another app I discovered recently, and I don't know if many of you watch Twitch, but
No.
I watch Chris
stream on
Like the
Twitch, I
Tech.
don't watch
I
it.
watch Chris Like the Tech on Twitch. That's the only person I watch on Twitch. But there's an app called Chatterino. It's an IRC based chat client for Twitch. It's easier than using the Twitch chat. You can do almost everything in there.
Yeah, I use my regular IRC client for Twitch because they have an IRC bridge.
Yeah, I wish YouTube had that, but YouTube doesn't.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. For a long time, Twitch chat was IRC.
And still on the back end.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the point. Like, I don't know. I think actually they switched off of IRC.
No, if it switched away from IRC, then Chatterino would stop working.
I think they have a front end, like IRC server front end for it, so that you can access it. But there is, I believe they have a different backend now.
Yeah, like recently, I was trying to set up a live stream. Last week, I wanted to do a live stream, but I chose to make a video instead. But there's this what's it called? Elements. What's it called?
The Matrix client. Is that what you're?
No, Elements. It's called. It's like overlays and stuff.
Oh.
They give you access to overlays and stuff. They gave me access to a bot, chat bot. I can give it commands like IRC, like / this, / that, except on YouTube it's exclamation mark this and exclamation mark that. Only they don't work. They keep saying bot not found, 404 not found. Because in order to get them to work, to get the bot to work, is you have to give the bot full access to your channel. I'm like, heck no, I'm not giving it access to my channel.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, yeah, no. But it's a neat thing. It gave me overlays, and if you watch my videos now, people love my live stream overlays because they mimic Zero Linux KDE edition. They're the same colors as the Zero Linux KDE edition. They told as one of the guys in chat told me, way to take consistency to another level. You even took it to Twitch to YouTube. I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I? I am all about consistency, right?
Well,
but yeah,
I want to say, fun fact: YouTube chat is actually just an extension of their comment section tech.
Yeah, it's not flexible. It's annoying.
No,
it's very flexible. It's just not.
It's
not
limited.
Standard.
Yeah, it's not standard and it's limited.
There is no need for it to not be limited.
Yeah.
So it's stream elements is what he's looking for.
Yeah, stream elements. That's the one.
But it's built on top of OBS, and they've found a way to monetize some things. And but a lot of people end up using Nightbot instead and just using regular OBS.
Yeah, it's not OBS basically. It's OBS, the paid version, the Windows one, not the free open source OBS. We got to differentiate that. It's built around the Windows OBS. Yeah, it's called. I don't know the full name of it, but it's a different OBS. It's completely different. It's got stream elements baked into it.
That's because they use they use OBS, and then they add their own stuff to it.
They add some extensions to it, and
and they make it proprietary. They made it proprietary. So
depending on
if you
the
want
license,
access to everything, you have to pay a subscription.
Yeah.
By the way, OBS is also the name of a Norwegian chain store, like a supermarket, grocery store, and it has been in existence since 1968.
OBS is also open source build servers.
Yeah, it sure was back in the day. I remember. Yeah. So.
And there's also something called
open source build service.
And there's also something called the Olympic Broadcasting Services. So
yes, also that.
There's so many things called OBS. I just wanted to ask you, DT. Okay, so before we end the stream, we still have a few, like 20 minutes or less. I wanted to ask you. Please clarify the vampire ask for help video that you created recently, because
some people, they are not necessarily sincere and like really wanting help. They're much more interested in getting people to do all the work for them.
Yeah, I was one of those guys. So
you were one.
Yeah,
you're talking about in your Linux Mint days when you were a Linux noob?
No, it's the first year of Zero Linux.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted people to do my work for me.
Yeah.
Not even the first year, even a little bit later, when I wanted someone to create a GUI toolkit for me. The CachyOS guys did it, and I kept coming to them pretending that I have a bad learning habit. I mean, an issue learning things. So I told them, I can't learn. Can you help me? Can you do something basic and I'll pick up from there?
And people hate it when you do that, Steve.
Yeah.
I tell you, I should have mentioned this example on the video the other day, but it didn't. I didn't think. I don't script things usually. I just. Yeah. But a good example of this you often see in tech-related, development forums, programming forums, things like that, where people will actually just want you to give them the code or write them a paper. Basically, a lot of times it'll be students, and they legit are asking these questions hoping someone will do their homework.
Isn't that what we're doing?
They just want somebody to do the homework for them so they can get credit for their class or whatever.
But isn't that what we're doing with ChatGPT these days?
Yes.
We want someone else to do the work for us. ChatGPT, do it for us.
The difference is ChatGPT won't complain about it, and it's probably not going to give you the right answer anyway.
and here's why I asked. Because up until recently, my whole entire toolkit was written by Claude AI.
Yeah.
That's why it was broken for the longest time. My good friend and shout out to Tony. Shout out to Tony. He took my toolkit and he saw all the corrupt and the bad AI code and stuff. Like, it had an issue where if you launch the toolkit, you go to let's say menu 1, menu 2, then menu 4, then menu 7, and then go back to the main menu. And there's an option that says hit X to exit. It wouldn't exit. You have to hit the X button as many times as you browse, because the way I was doing things, the AI was doing things, it was stacking the scripts on top of each other. So he fixed that for me. So he fixed everything for me, so many things for me, because AI was so sloppy and I didn't understand how to fix anything because I'm not a developer. So
well, that's one of my complaints with it is, I'll often ask some of these large language models programming questions or for code, but it has to be a language I know a little bit about, and I know I could write it myself if I wanted to. Because if you ask it something you know absolutely nothing about, it's most of the time it gives you bad code.
Yeah,
like I've gotten that so many times in Bash and in Python or whatever, Haskell. I know a little bit about. You know, like I can spot the mistakes it's making in some of those languages, and I already have tried the method it's trying, and I know that doesn't work. That's why I'm asking you, ChatGPT, to give me the code. But if it's a language you know nothing about,
here's the thing.
It's going to cause you so many more headaches than.
I'm reminded of last weekend on the LTT van show. I'm watching the after the fact in order to skip and so on. Luc Lafreniere mentioned that they came in. They came into ChatGPT and so on for a brief moment, and he said that he is using it heavily, but only for getting ideas on what to do in his work. So he will give it questions like, he is working on this. Do you have some ideas for something? And he will look at the output and then get ideas based on the output, but he never uses the output for anything.
For me, it was an issue where I discovered something because I've been using ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude AI and all these, and I discovered one thing. It's really on purpose. They make it dumb and give you wrong answers, because in the beginning, when you start using it for the first, 10 minutes, you get free tokens, free pro tokens. So they do it on purpose. So you use up your free pro tokens, and you reach the slow tokens and dumb tokens, and you go over the limit, and so you start paying more and more and more and more to get more tokens to get to the answer you need. If they keep it
it's
free,
actually not that. I wouldn't go into that conspiracy.
No, I'm not saying all of them. Some of them do that because this is.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect, because even the ones that are not trying necessarily to monetize themselves, some of those are the exact same way. They're just going to give you bad information all the time. It's not
It all depends on what prompt you're using, how much context you already given it, and so on and so on.
I'm giving it a lot of context, and I try to be as descriptive as possible. Like, I'll give you an example. The other day, I told it I am writing a bash script, and I want the bash script to do this, and that. You know what it answered? In Python, this is how you do things. I was like, I asked you for a bash script. Why are you giving me Python?
Which one were you using?
Claude 4.
Makes sense, yes. Claude. I don't think Claude actually knows bash.
I don't know what it went all. It went completely off the rails, and it started telling me about something called PySide 6, which is a Qt-based Python language, GUI
that's
language.
Not.
I'm like, hey, I told you I want a bash script. What the hell? I'm like, I quit.
I don't know why it's creating a Qt application using Python if you asked it about a bash script. So
because that's how it goes. You should all remember, this is literally software that goes, okay, based on tokens I received, specifically tokens are basically characters in this case, or words I received, and this mathematical function I've used, what is the next word I should use? And when it puts first word or first token, as it thinks in tokens, it takes, okay, based on all what is written and what I've already written, what token should go next. And if it decides it wants Python, it's gonna do Python, and it's gonna show you Python. It isn't actually thinking.
Yeah, it's not thinking. You got it right. It's not
generating tokens based on context, and that's it. It's not.
And another thing, it might have
intelligence of its own.
And it might have one of the reasons could be, I'm not sure, it could be that it detected that I am on KDE, and it was like, Hey, KDE, Qt. I'll tell them Qt-based Python script.
No, it probably just because somebody else used that somewhere on the page it learned from, used Python and PyQt for something that was similar but not any, and it confused. It's because that's how these things work. It has a whole lot of data, and then based on the data it has written, generates tokens, and that's it.
All that discussion is to say we are the vampires, only not with other humans, but with ChatGPT sometimes.
Look,
because we want ChatGPT to do the work for us.
Well, you're not really hurting ChatGPT by doing that.
I use AI all the time these days, but I will never, ever, ever let it write more than a method at a time or a function at a time. Because if you do anything else than that, anything else than a bite-sized content that you can actually read and understand, you're gonna be in the same amount of trouble as if you go on Stack Overflow and just copy everything and paste it into the
I mean, a lot of the data comes from the same sources, so
literally, yes. A lot of the data comes from Stack Overflow. We already see the problems with some of the newest frameworks for JavaScript, because it probably, while I was talking about this, a new JavaScript framework came out. They already see that newest frameworks, the LLMs have huge amount of trouble working with them because there is no Stack Overflow, there is no good documentation yet. It's a cluster F.
I remember, I think this also was on the LTT event show last year sometime in March or something. Luke mentioned that someone had used, so this someone writes his own code, and then he learned about ChatGPT. So he posted something that he was creating, and he posted the code just to see what ChatGPT thought of the code, if there are any vulnerabilities and whatnot. And I think ChatGPT discovered, just by him writing the code, there were two separate very critical CVEs because of how a certain function worked, and suggested a replacement. And he checked out the sources, and yes, he had actually created something with a critical CVE that was closed a few years before.
It happened with me a lot when I was working on my Rust code. It just include and thank the Lord for GitHub Dependabot. It has its bot that scans the code for any malicious code when you push to your repo. In the beginning, I was having a hard time pushing my code because it kept refusing it due to malicious code being in there that ChatGPT introduced. And since since I'm not a developer, I didn't understand what the code was. But there's a button in Dependabot that you click, it merges a fix to get rid of all the malicious code in there. So that's why I don't push code generated by ChatGPT a lot anymore. I just and sometimes what I do, I found a method. I work with ChatGPT and then I copy the code from ChatGPT. And give it to Perplexity AI. Then from Perplexity AI, send it to another ChatGPT. I keep sending it to multiple, and I always, not always, but most of the time, I reach a point where there's no more malicious code. But I'm not saying functional code, but no malicious code anymore, because one of the GPTs discovered that code and got rid of it.
I'm gonna say this: if you do not know what the code does, you shouldn't be using it, no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that enough to understand.
By that I mean you have to know enough of the language to read every line and know in principle what the code will do.
Yeah.
Because, and if you don't know that, sorry, but you shouldn't be using
LLMs.
Well,
I think in Steve's case, he knew what he wanted to do. He just didn't know that specific thing of that it created a problem. But he found a way to figure it out.
If you read the code, you should be able to know that it will do this, and this.
And the problem is, like ChatGPT and all these LLMs, they if you give them too much to do, they write really bad code that's just, it doesn't make any sense. It does a crazy amount of lines of code to go around a very simple, like what could be like a one-line solution to a problem. Yeah. One of the problems I found is when you ask like a ChatGPT, hey, give me a function that does this, and then there's something quite a little off with it, and then you tweak it by asking it another question to modify that function. If you have to ask it more than like 3 or 4 different things to modify something, it's going to end up creating this. It's going to create code that just doesn't make any sense. Maybe it made sense to the machine, but like you as a human being, you're like, I would have never done that the way this thing is doing it.
Yeah, your ability to rationalize.
And just so that there's no misunderstanding, the use case that I was mentioning that they talked about last year on the Van show was that this guy, he writes his own code. He doesn't use any artificial help of any kind, but he used ChatGPT as a test just to see if ChatGPT found a vulnerability in the code that he was making. And that is, in my opinion, a valid use of language models to identify problems that has already been found by someone else.
I remember I was reading a couple of months ago about someone who basically had a, shall we say, older project, but well-documented one. So he could give it a lot of like data, a lot of code. It was to Claude. He gave it all the code, all the documentation, all the side notes, everything. So it had a huge amount of context. And then he wrote, just rewrite it so it will be written better. You know what his reaction was? It was so beautiful code, but it was so broken. It didn't even copy. If you copy pasted it, you got thousands of errors. But it was so beautifully written because it knows coding styles. It doesn't know how to write correct code.
Well, and for some of the things too is that you have to be part of what I was saying is you have to be able to understand what it's giving and how it applies to what you're trying to use it for. Because for me, I'll use it for increasing my productivity. Not so much, not really idea generation, but because I'm telling it what I want to do, and it's trying to help me how to get there. So you have to be able to synthesize that information and how to process it. So
well, guys, we're coming up on the end of the stream. Let's go ahead and get a last word. So why don't everybody take a minute or two and get a last word in. Big Pod, start us out.
Do not use AI to write code. Not because AI shouldn't do it, because you write worst code if you do. Also, check out my podcast, No Text Allowed, on YouTube and all your favorite podcatchers. And if you wanna see more of me, you can check out my YouTube channel and Twitch page. I'm streaming again. So Big Pod on YouTube and Big Pod 98 on Twitch. I'm playing some City Skylines 2 right now, but I'll probably do some other games as well, and might do some programming.
Very cool.
And that's it for me.
Wow, all you guys got Twitch streams, and I don't have an account. So, maybe I'll check you out over there, though. I appreciate it, Big Pod.
It was just so I could capture a bigger audience. I don't really care about Twitch.
Soulblue, give us a last word, sir.
Yeah, so what some of the viewers might remember is last year I started to create music. So I create about 1 song a week. That's the goal, at least. So every Monday I release something, and my channel is Soulblue-1973 on YouTube. And I'm not a very big channel. I have 70 subscribers and so on. But if you like what I do, then or my music, then please follow and give me a chat or send a message on one of the videos or whatever. So.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Solbu. George, give us the last word.
Yeah, thanks again for having this. It's really nice to kind of hang out at the end of the month on a Sunday morning. And one thing I was thinking about with things talking about earlier about all the different distributions and stuff. One thing that we have to remember is that a lot of the old open source stuff and a lot of things came out of the universities and academic exercises. But a lot of times we're taking the hobbies and taking the academic exercises and they're trying to, put them out there. And then people, I think, are taking it as like way farther than it probably should be. And that's why I think we have such a crowded, noisy distribution ecosystem as well.
Yeah.
That reminds me, just very brief. At the 10-year anniversary of the Linux kernel, Torvalds had a talk at a historic society in the US somewhere, and he talked about how the feature creep very quickly came into the Linux kernel because he wanted to replicate Unix, which at the time was very much a terminal thing. And then some people started to send in patches to fix something or add features and so on. And one of them said that he had a passion. He said that you need an X server system on this thing. And he told the audience that his reaction was, "I do."
Yeah.
Anything else, George?
Oh, no, I'm good. Thanks.
All right. Appreciate that. No. Steve, give us the last word.
This will be the first time I will say this, but it's not going to be the last time. I'm back on YouTube. So if you don't know my channel, well, it's Zero Linux. So add Zero Linux. It's the same name as my distro. I'm back. So there will be either a live stream or a video this Tuesday or Wednesday. Look out for it and help the channel grow, because it's not because I want to monetize or anything. Yeah, far from it. I don't care about that. All I care about is for more and more people to get the Linux knowledge, to understand what Linux is really about. And this time around, I'm not going to be kidding and beating around the bush. It's a very honest channel, talks about the valid points, makes valid points, and talks about the truth. If you can't handle the truth, then don't use Linux. That's all I'm gonna say.
I got the notification the other day, a couple of days ago. I got a notification saying that Zero Linux was live streaming, and I didn't check it out. I assumed your channel got hacked, because I was like, Steve doesn't make videos, right?
Yeah, I decided to come back because it's been aching at me that I keep telling people on this Patreon cast and various presence YouTube where I am part of, but I'm not doing it on my own channel. It's about time I did it on my own channel, so that's what I'm doing. I'm not going to stick to any script or anything. I'm just gonna say things as they are, how I feel. And if I discover something new, recently I made a video about a new plasmoid, video wallpaper plasmoid, that I discovered that makes it easy to apply video wallpapers rather than having to use a wallpaper engine that is on Steam and crash our desktops. So I made a video about that, and so it went from there, and people loved it. So I'm gonna keep on doing it. So check out my channel and help me grow, and let the message get across. Thank you. And thank you, DT, for this awesome monthly Patreon cast. It's always awesome. And today's discussion was amazing.
Yeah. These are always fun. I don't know if the discussion was amazing. You seemed a lot more stoked about it than maybe the rest of us, but I guess we had some fun, though. We didn't do anything controversial this week, though.
No.
So maybe next time. Matter of fact, we should have brought up some of the latest drama with the Linux kernel, because we didn't even. You know what? We'll save that one for next month.
Yeah.
All right. Now let me get my last word in. My last word, of course, thanking you guys for being here on camera with me. Also, you guys in the YouTube chat. Appreciate you guys for hanging out. Great questions and comments there as well. I know we didn't get to address too many questions from the chat, but thank you guys for hanging out. Other than that, I'm going to show some names on the screen. Some of the patrons of the channel that couldn't be here with us on camera. And other than that, let's all, well, let's wave bye.